Hi, everybody. Ferny is here, but he popped out. He'll be back. Um, and hello, Anita. It's lovely to see you, dear. I hope Mr. Felix is doing all right. Anyway, we got bumped out, but he'll be back. So I am excited to have him here. Very excited. Anyway, so I'm just taking it slow this morning anyway. Just taking everything really slow. I think it's just easier that way. Hi, Mickey. Nice to see you. How is everybody feeling this Thanksgiving week ahead of us here? Oops, I got something on my screen. I got to take it off. Hello, Debbie at Three Shifting Veils. He's trying to find work. Yeah, I get it. I totally get it. It's understandable. So I just popped us on. Yeah, sorry. That's all right.
No, that's okay. Yeah, I was like, what's happening with my thing? And then shut down and went back to coming on.
Oh, well, good. That's good. That, right in the middle of that happens to me sometimes, right in the middle of something it says, we need to update. Boom.
Yeah. How funny. How funny.
Anyway. Yes.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So how are you doing?
Well, we were just briefly speaking backstage. I was telling him about my horrible year or horrible fall, I guess is the way to say it. But I think everything's, I'm aiming for the 15th of December to be completely free of grading papers. So let's hope so. Yeah.
That will be, yeah. How, when you have to do that and you have to grade papers, like how long is that process and what does that look like?
Well, it depends on the size of the paper. Like I have a couple papers that are only like 2 or 3 pages each, and that is usually faster. But the last 2 weeks, there have been 6 to 7 page research papers, which have components I have to make sure they have in the paper. They have to have citations. They have to have a works cited. They have to. And so it takes me sometimes like 8 hours to do 24 people, which is still fast, but not fast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, it's old. It gets old fast. And then, I give copious notes, do this, fix that. And then they resubmit it. Usually don't have to do much with it. Some of them never read the notes and they resubmit the original and they fail. So why give them a chance some days? Anyway, enough about
Well, I mean, some people they are just rushing through life and they're trying to get someplace, and sometimes they don't realize that part of the process of getting there is the journey and the amount of self-development and growth that we have to do.
And there a lot of them are they're young. I mean, they're probably I even have 15-year-olds in my class that are still in high school, some of them. So I have 15 to 20 years old, and I was running through life then too. I think we all were. So,
do you think, just based on observation from when, let's say maybe 15, 20 years ago versus today, do you think that most people have an unrealistic expectation for how quickly they will grasp something or how quickly they can get somewhere?
Yeah, I think so. I definitely do. I think you probably know that with your readings that you do. You've noted it over your time because you've been doing this, 15 years?
Almost. Yeah. I've been doing it full time professionally over 10 years. Okay. I'm about to hit 11 years. And, but I've been doing this longer than that. That's just the amount of time.
Oh yeah. I know you have. As a kid.
Yeah.
Kid, definitely. Which is what he chronicles in his wonderful book, Psychic, by Fernando Marron. And Ferny's been on my channel many times with me, and not so much this year because he just moved out here to the Pacific Northwest and he had a lot of moving to do and he has a new relationship and everything about his life this year has really, really, boom, exponentially grown, including having a book out. And I'm really happy to have him out here. I'm still planning on coming to Portland at some point to see you and Blaine. So that's my hope. Yeah, that's my.
Oh, I'd love that. Yeah, you're in Seattle, aren't you?
I am. Well, actually, I'm south of it. Yeah, so I'm about 2 hours from Portland. That's all.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, like Tacoma-ish, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I can always come up and see you.
You can anytime you wish. I would love that. Anyway, yes, you and Blaine are always welcome, or by yourself if you want to come. That's perfectly fine too. Yeah. So, Letitia, we'll get to that in a minute. What I'd love to do is we will do some questions, but please know that we have a limited time. And so there'll only be probably a couple of questions because I want to talk a little bit about his book. We actually planned this in September. We were going to do this in September. And then Ferny had, it was Labor Day, and then you had to pack, and then you had to move.
I was
and
moving. I was I was also traveling a lot at that time because I had to go from Santa Fe to Houston, and then I had to come back to Santa Fe, and then I was hosting people, and then I was also prepping my house to pack and everything. Had to go up to Denver, had to come back. It was a lot. It was a lot. Yeah,
it was. And of course, I always understand because my life gets crazy, and I have to move things along. But anyway, I bought this book, about that time and read most of it. And what I want to focus on is because I want you to read the wonderful parts of how he became a psychic and the stories that he tells. And there's some really wonderful information in the whole book. But I'm going to focus a little bit on some of the things he says in the back, because I want you guys to be aware of what it takes to be a psychic. I mean, it's, and at some point you were also working at Starbucks in the very beginning, correct? Yes.
Yeah. I was probably with Starbucks just as long as I've been doing this professionally now, because I was with them over 10 years as well.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, a lot of people get their start at Starbucks, including my own son. He's not a psychic, but he put his time in, let's put it that way. So I already am seeing that Julie Starkey is here saying it was a great book. She's coming in from your channel. And also this gentleman
my
here,
partner. There he is.
It's wonderful to see you, Blaine. And I'm going to be writing to you this week so we can reschedule because I miss you. Anyway, so Marina's here from Heart Centered Tarot, and Anya.
Hey, Marina.
And Edward and Sue and Sunshine and Paul and Carl. And oh my God, there's so many of you here. It would take me half the time to read it, but to say it, but I want to welcome you all absolutely to the show. And Lisa Keller is here. All right. So anyway, what my favorite part is in here for me and for anybody else on here that is either thinking about being a psychic or is a psychic and maybe feels alone, is your P/PTSD section here. And it talks about how career psychics also have ADHD.
Yeah.
Or they can from their brain going.
Or they develop it. Yeah.
Oh my God. They develop it because they have to quickly switch between modes to quickly grab thoughts and process the data that they see that's coming in. And I thought it's almost like it's equal to, but not quite as bad as when you're running a show, giving readings at the same time and looking at the chat. And I think you can attest to that. So if you're doing it, it's like you're going in 3 or 4 different modes to do that.
It's a trained process. I mean, when we think of, Gen Z these days, their attention span is like, it's very little because they are used to only seeing snippets of things and snippets processing next. It's the same process, except this is happening within the mind. And there's a lot of information that is coming in, and you have to first be aware of it. Most people are not realizing that it's there because they're thinking about everything else in their life. Right. But when you make space for this and you focus on those thoughts and that information, you give yourself a chance to grasp something. And then once you grasp something, you have to figure out what that means, or to break it down into some components so that way you can make sense of it. And most people in the beginning, it just seems like a lot of gibberish. There are those stars who in the beginning, they're like, oh my God, they like from just out. I mean, Blaine was one of those individuals just out of the gate. He caught things really quickly. But even then, someone like myself, who I like to break things down and understand things, just knowing something isn't good enough. I want to know, why did I know that? Why did I sense that more accurately than this other piece of information? What was it about this that I picked up on versus that? So I spent time assessing, analyzing, trying to figure that part out. But it is a developed skill to sense something, process it, and then move on to the next. And it does create a situation where you're dealing with ADD and you start to become less focused on one thing for too long, and you just start bouncing around in your brain a lot.
Yeah. Do you think it has something also due to one's trust in one's abilities in the beginning, at least?
Yeah, because I think, even I, years later, having gotten to this point, having, kept a very strong running business for many years, having kept my reputation as a psychic and a medium, even I run into these random situations or moments where if I'm sensing something and it's not coming through as clearly, or I'm not understanding it as well, I have to like dig into it further. I have to push myself. And so even to
Mhm.
this day, I am also in myself having to still develop, still learn, still push myself to continue to evolve that skill set.
Though, I really love that. It's like when you even in high school, you go to high school and you get a high school education.
Yeah.
And then if you never pick up anything and learn anything new, you're stuck in that high school mindset in a
Yeah.
way. And the same thing could be said of college, or the same thing, anything that you're doing
Yeah.
that needs constant reassessment, or just new skills that happen to come
Yeah.
in.
Well,
Yeah.
well, with any skill in your life, I mean, some people say, "Oh, it's just like riding a bike. Like once you learn how to ride a bike, you never forget how to ride a bike."
Right.
True, but it's not as simple as that because when you think of someone like a musician, let's say you think of a person like Whitney Houston, who, in
Mhm.
her heyday, at the peak of her career, she was hitting notes and able to sing in such a controlled way that it people don't realize. I mean, she was on stage, she was in movies and all these other things,
Yeah.
but they didn't realize there was all this work behind the scenes that took for her to get to that pivotal moment. And then a few years went by, she kind of stepped away from the limelight. She started running into her own struggles. And when
Yeah.
she tried to go back into these opportunities to sing in public, her voice didn't sound the same. There was obviously something that had happened. And
Yeah.
and the thing that had happened was her lack of training, her lack of
Sure.
practice. And
Yeah.
and so it's one of these, like, you have to keep it going, have to keep it going, have to keep using it, refining it, pushing it, using it, refining it, pushing it. And
Uh-huh.
that's the thing. The minute you step away from it, it's not as simple as like riding a bike. You can sing, you can hold a tune, but you can't necessarily have the same level of control. It's the same thing
Right.
with your psychic ability.
Sure.
Like you
Makes
can
sense.
refine it, you can get really good until you pull back and then you start to pull away, or you don't do as much of it. And then at that point you start to lose some of the refinements that you had gained
Mhm.
through the ongoing practice.
Absolutely. Wow. And that, yeah, that's if myself included, because I went through spurts. Like I went through this spurt and then I had to raise my
Mm.
family. And then I went through this spurt and I had to go to
Mhm.
school. And so I step away from working on myself and my psychic
Yeah.
abilities. And so then I finally at 65 say, hey, wait a minute. Where did the
Yeah.
time go? I need
Yeah.
to get back to, and it took time to get reintegrated into that once
Yeah.
again. So I totally
Yeah.
get it. I totally get it.
Well, and
Um,
also when you train your brain this way, when you there, I don't know if you've ever heard of that phenomena where sometimes these musicians, they develop stage fright, or they start to develop this like sense of, I don't want to be in front of the audience, or I don't want to sing, or I have this fear and this thing that kind of takes hold. I think Shania Twain is a perfect example of that. She hit the peak of her career, and then she went through something personal in her marriage, and then after that, she just kind of shied away from the
yeah.
public, and she just would have panic attacks and have all of this anxiety come up right before
Mhm.
she would go on. So she just stopped performing because she couldn't
Definitely.
cope with
Carly Simon
that.
was like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that
she
that was a
did.
PTSD period for her. She
Yeah.
developed this sense of anxiety, and I did the same thing early this year. I developed
Mhm.
that for a
Yeah.
while, especially with the election and everything that was going on. It was just too much happening all at once.
Yes. Yeah, and I
Mhm.
totally get it, and that makes perfect sense. I think that it's a confidence thing, it's a
Yeah,
trust thing,
yeah,
and what the other thing I notice here is, and this is me and others that I've seen, sometimes we seek external comfort, like you can become an alcoholic, drug user, excess eating, emotional neglect, self-harm, or even just overdoing something,
yeah.
which I think I'm very guilty of. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
something that I've realized also is that I actually do better if I'm not asking for external validation in certain areas of my sensing ability. Like when it comes to psychic sensing, what I'm doing
Mhm.
in that moment is I am connecting with the target or the thing that I'm trying to sense around, and I'm allowing information to come in, and I'm just sharing what I'm getting.
Yeah.
I operate well this to that capacity because for me it's just what I've trained myself to do. But if
Mhm.
I have something in front of me that is either validating or invalidating me in the moment, that actually does not help me with the process of sensing. I would rather not know what it is that I'm tuning into, and then wait till I'm done kind of figuring things out for myself and giving my own interpretation of something, than to have someone red, green, green, green. Like it creates it creates a weird disconnect with how you normally rhythmly connect with the information, or how you flow versus what you would normally do, versus just having your base. You're starting to doubt yourself. You're going to start to run into this like weird pattern of questioning self and whether you should or you shouldn't, which is why sometimes when it comes to like testing and doing these cognitive tests, these intuitive tests, it isn't always best to have something that's going to immediately be either validating or invalidating. I as an experience that I recently had was I've been doing this experiment that is for, you've heard the Muse EEG bands where you put them on your head and they measure your brainwave technology. They've got a study going on, a research study, where they're basically having mediums, or people who are established mediums, conduct themselves using an experiment. And some of it is just intuitively, and some of it is based in mediumship. And what they're doing is they're just measuring your brainwaves as you're doing something, but they're also checking your intuition as well. And one of the tests that they use is they are asking for what image is going to show up or what image is going to appear, but they aren't just, it's not blank. It's like, you've got where the image is going to show up, but then you've got 4 other pictures next to it. And so by default, that is not a great way for me to do it, just because I don't like knowing anything. Like I want to start from scratch in that. When it comes to mediumship, it's a different thing. I like to have a person's face, but when it comes to sensing something out of context, there's just nothing to go off of. I prefer that than to have, which picture is it? And then you've got 4 pictures. And at that point you're front loaded, because you're going to pay less attention to what you're used to sensing, how that flow works versus what you're being given, which is validation or invalidation. And so I prefer to be like, I prefer to like, so I've been having to do the experiment where I'm like trying to block the screen, and I'm just like, okay, what's the number of the experiment? Okay, number 13. Okay, number 14. And then just kind of go into my zone and then write down what I'm perceiving, the details that I'm getting. And then I come back and I look at the pictures, because I want to base what I'm going to select off of what I was tuning into and how I'm interpreting that data versus something else. Because if not, you can get into your head about things, and then it throws you completely off.
Sure. I love that. I never thought about it that way, but if you give me cards like that, not tarot cards, but like flashcards type thing, I don't do very well either. It's like, you're just predicting a 25% chance or whatever it is, 25%.
That's based on that's based on that interpretation of it, and whether you're going to get, the score or not. Right. But also part of that process is like the ability to tune in and to sense anything. And if it's something you're trying to tune into that you don't really have a real interest in, it's not going to work as well as if it's for someone who has an interest in it. This is why there's psychics and mediums who have their specialties. There are psychics who are they only focus on love and relationships, because they care a lot about the drama that happens behind the scenes when it comes to love. Or someone else who's more of a financial psychic or an intuitive, or someone who's a health psychic or an intuitive. There's either something that they have an interest in that's got them fixated on that, or they simply have enough background that it's an easy thing for them to think about, and it makes it a lot easier for them to tune into their ability and combine the two together. So it just depends on the person and what they find interesting and non-interesting. Sure.
And then there's, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I was thinking about Tyler Henry, the psychic that's on TV. He's such a young kid, really. He's not very old. But he has so many physical problems. He has so many. I'm wondering if he's just overdoing whatever.
That is something that we all have to deal with. If you are just pushing yourself, you're going to pay the price. There's a price to pay. For me, my ADD, ADHD pattern is one of those, things where I can try to go days without taking Adderall, because that's the medication that I take for my condition. But it's not easy. and then after a few days, it's like my body, my brain just doesn't want to line up
Yeah.
and get on the level where I needed to, because this requires a lot of concentration, a lot of focus, a lot of
Yeah.
mental brain power. And sometimes by default, our brains are not designed to operate that way.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Oh my God. You're a wealth of information. I love that. You talk a little bit in this particular chapter about the COVID pandemic. And also, you have mentioned now how at the beginning of the year, with all the craziness around our culture, what's going on, that had, are you finding that you're talking to a lot of people who have had that? Because I believe that there are many of us that were so disappointed with psychic predictions from last year that did not happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what we sense and how we interpret that to show up in the world is where the disconnect happens.
Okay.
I have said this before, and I'm going to say it again, and I may be shooting myself in the foot, but I'm sticking to what I believe. I fundamentally believe that some very, very calculated things happened around the end of last year and the election, and what happened with the processes of an election. Oh, let's see.
Yep, I can still
It froze
hear
for a
you.
second. Yeah, the processes of the election. So with oh, let's see, there we go. I fundamentally believe that something went differently than what was supposed to occur.
I agree.
But I don't necessarily think that what people were picking up on, or people were predicting, or people sensing was inaccurate.
Right.
What we sense is one thing. How we interpret that to show up in the world is where we end up kind of making our mistakes. Yeah. I predicted that certain things were going to occur, and then I made a prediction of, as far as the election, what was going to happen after that, based on what I sensed.
Right.
Now it's turning out that there's a lot of things coming out, especially if you look at like the Rockland County lawsuit, and if you look at some of the other things and variables. I got a chance to see Kamala in person at an event here in Portland, actually, and I was a little, telling my boyfriend, I was like, I was a little disappointed because they're not acknowledging like what is coming out, and they're not even touching it. But they're tiptoeing around it. And I'm like, it's irritating and frustrating, because a lot of us are like, yeah, something's up, something went awry, something's different. Yep. And there's too many, not only statistical, there are some statistical inaccuracies and variables that seem to just switch in weird ways. And people even just were able to capture it live as it was happening in various places around the country, and yet it wasn't really acknowledged. And so things kind of went a different way than what people were predicting. And I believe what people were sensing was the truth of what I think was actually happening, but what they predicted would happen from that, what they were sensing, that's where they went awry. Just like I did, same thing, rookie mistake. I made my prediction on what was going to happen based on what I was sensing. What I was sensing seems to be accurate, and it looks like it's more and more and more aligning to what I had shared publicly. But what the outcome was different than what we had predicted. But what we sensed was the accurate part of it. And so I think time will tell. And I even mentioned before the election that there would be a very calculated attempt at all levels of government to essentially steal the election, or to put him in position of authority, and to screw her over. And we wouldn't find out right away. We would find out after the fact. And I made that prediction as well. So I think that's exactly what we're seeing happening.
The only thing that I want to add to that is that the Democrats don't tend to push things like the Republicans do. And so there's a lot of that didn't help, because if you stood up to it, I would have thought at least that might have changed something.
Yeah, hopefully. But now I'm seeing, now we've got the Epstein tapes coming out and all of that information, which I also predicted something very similar years prior, where I had this dream, and there were all these people at different levels of government who were abusing minors, young girls, and I dreamt about it, and I and there were video cameras recording everything, and they were all being saved on these discs, and there was libraries full of footage that showed this. Since it now
Wow.
appears to be that, both parties have had a role in that, and there are ties to each party, makes me wonder, what were they holding over people's heads that made them go along with what happened this election cycle and not fight or push back? What were they holding over people's heads? And I'm thinking that we're going to find out. I think we're going to find out
eventually. I agree with you. I do. Today, I just noticed, Marjorie Taylor Greene retired, quote, is stepping down at the beginning of the year. And I'm hearing that it's very possible that there's going to be a huge defection from the Republican Congress, and that eventually Hakeem Jeffries is going to be speaker before the end of the year. And a lot of psychics said that last year, actually. So we'll see. I mean, this isn't a political show that we're trying to do here.
Right.
It's important because it does affect all of us, and it affects the culture. So yeah. Anyway, wow. Well, thank you for that. That was good to know. I love that. The last thing I want to talk about before we maybe do some readings is don't stop believing. Haters gonna hate. The worst thing you can do is let someone else's opinion of you overpower and what you know to be true to yourself. And that's such good advice, whether you're a psychic or not, that we do allow other people to disempower us by whatever it is their opinions of us are. And this book is wonderful. It's just really, really has a lot in it that, but you're not a writer.
I'm not. Yeah. I began the process in writing it myself. And then I got myself a ghostwriter who helped me just really structure and get it all sorted out. And she did an incredible job. I absolutely love the work that she did with me. And
I'm teasing you because you are a writer. You really are.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm really proud of it. And I'm glad that it came out as well as it did. And the next one will be Mediumship, but it's probably not going to be for a couple of years, because this coming year is my focus is to promote the book and to really get it out there and to talk about the work that's required to do this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I also love the 3 reasons that you use your readings. To give a client a glimpse of something they may experience in the future so they can prepare for it. And I love that word, prepare. To give the client a sense of closure, such as in a mediumship reading, and to give the client the freedom to expand through their own conscious connections and foster personal growth. So you are a cheerleader in a lot of ways. And I know that you probably are like many of us. If you see something that is over the top, it's the way that you present that something to that client that was in the best interest of what they need.
Yeah. It sometimes I try, when you're doing a reading, and people have had a lot of experiences, clients specifically, when they go to other psychics who have just kind of also self-taught. A lot of us have self-taught. But they're used to creating a grand story of something that's fairly minuscule or small, and it's just like big balloons and turns into this big old thing. People have to be careful with how much that they buy into. And at the same time, there are times when I do see things that are completely extraordinary, and I'm just like, that is way out of the realm of normalcy. I'm not grasping that, and I'm not even accepting that myself. And I try to tell a client, look, this is what I'm sensing. This is going to sound completely crazy, but this is what I'm sensing. So my thought around this is this. And so even though I'll share what I'm sensing, I'll give them my interpretation of what I think it means. But there are times where psychics who just have been self-taught or are used to operating without any kind of oversight, any formalized training, just say the things that they should not say. I have a client who recently reached out to me because a psychic told her that she was going to die. And I was like, and I'm like, did she tell you what day, what time of what? She's like, no, that I'm just going to die. And I was like, okay.
Well, we all are going to die, aren't we?
Yeah. And so immediately I'm like, well, what am I seeing? Or, I'm trying to offer her something that can help her to kind of gauge this internally, and just to help her to reroute herself or realign herself to a sense of like, okay, well, let me kind of see what I can do here to kind of get you to a good place with this. And I tuned into her health and I told her, look, this is what I'm seeing. This is what I think you need to pay attention to, what you need to look at. But for the most part, this is what I think might be an issue, but go to the doctor, get this checked out.
Absolutely.
And she did, and the
Mhm.
doctor verified some things for her. She started working on that, and she was going to be having some medical stuff go on, but it was all stuff that she could work through,
Mhm.
and she was able to work through it. So it really comes down to what they're going to be able to do or not do.
Mhm. Mhm. Oh, he'll be back. I'm sure he'll be back. Wow. He's such a wealth of information. It's wonderful. Oh, here he comes. All right. There you go.
I don't know what's going on there, but that's okay. Here we go. We're back.
Yeah. Thank you
Yeah.
for that. That was really very interesting because I have heard people that have said this that wasn't necessarily like you're going to die, which that's awful to tell somebody. But there'll be some people that will just say, well, you just got to do this and get over it, or something like that. There's no it's not coming from a place of love and compassion. And so being heart-centered as a psychic and love-centered is so important for
and
all of us.
you get to choose sometimes. I mean, sometimes if a
Yeah.
psychic is telling you something that you don't want to hear, it's okay if you don't accept that
Right.
as your future. You can hear the
Right.
message, you can hear what the psychic is telling you. You don't
Mhm.
necessarily have to agree that you're going to
That's
let
right.
that be the case. You can make changes, and there are times where people do make changes. He
Mhm.
said, my marriage isn't going to work. What can I do about that? And they will work on it, and they'll come back and they said, because you said this, my
You
husband and I
worked on
went
your
into
marriage.
counseling and we went into
Yeah.
therapy and we're doing
Yeah.
well. I'm like, yeah, I don't see the same future. Like something has
Right.
shifted and I'm not seeing that either anymore. So
Yeah.
something has shifted, and you can change your future.
Then that tells you you have always have had the power,
Yeah.
always. You just
Yeah.
have to maybe be reminded. That's beautiful. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. I love that. Um, HR unavailable. I love that. How do you become a psychic? Can it be developed?
Yeah.
What would you answer for that?
There
Yeah.
are people who believe that being a psychic, psychics are born, not made. I fundamentally believe that psychics can be made, but are also born,
Mhm.
because I believe we are all born with this ability. Some of us are just a little more energetically aligned to it, to the process, than others. Some of us, our systems are just built for it. Some of
Right.
us, not so much. Even though I was a sensitive child, I mean, empathy, energetic, emotional empathy was the thing that it was easier for me to be aware of, to pick up on.
Right.
The development of my clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, all of these other abilities and skills was intentional. So even though I started off in one area, I evolved that into other forms. And
Right.
some people, they start off, well, I started off as a painter, but they developed into, pottery work and clay, and they become a well-known sculptor. Like
Correct.
that is what
Yeah.
you can do with your ability. And if everyone has it, then
Mhm.
what do you want to do with it? And are you willing to put in the work and effort it takes to develop it? And it's not going to be easy, but if this means something to you, you can use this to your advantage, whether in your everyday life, making decisions about things that maybe you need to be guided through,
Mhm. Mhm.
or you can do this professionally if that is where you want to go with it.
Sure. Sure. I really do believe that every creative um, impulse and with when we use it in whatever
Yeah.
way, maybe we cook a really beautiful roast, or
Yeah.
maybe it's all directed. It's all
Yeah.
you opening yourself up to that creative impulse.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah.
also when you develop your abilities, you also make it easier for those in spirit to reach out to you and to
True.
connect with you. And for example, last night I had an experience since my mama cat passed away a few
Oh
months
yeah,
ago.
I'm sorry.
That was a huge rough period for me to processing, and just like, and I'm still processing her loss, because
Sure.
she's my soulmate. I mean,
Yeah.
but she's been coming to me a lot more recently. And last night I had a dream. I was telling Blaine about this morning. I said, I had the most interesting dream. And in this dream, I was in some place reminded me of the desert, like Santa Fe.
Uh-huh.
And there was a cat there, like Mama Cat. And I realized it was Mama Cat. And I was concerned about her. And I wanted to make sure she was getting all the love and the care, and, that she was being taken care of. And that's what was happening in the dream. Separate from the other elements of the dream, I remember just being concerned about her and wanting to make sure she was okay.
Uh-huh.
And then I was awoken in the middle of the night while I was having this dream, and I was awoken because the TV turned on, And the TV came on, and I thought, oh my God, what's going on? And then I realized my other cat, Olivia, who is the only cat I have now. She's
Right.
I guess you could say she's a teenager, but she accidentally hopped onto my side table and turned on the TV.
My dog's still there.
And yeah, just happened to do it. What's interesting is that the TV turned on to a moment from a movie. And the moment was from the movie, what was it, Pan's Labyrinth? And it was in the moment of the film, it was a moment where there was a black cat that was talking to one of the main characters. And
Wow.
my mama cat was a black cat. And so as soon as the TV turns on, the first thing I see on TV is a black cat talking. And I'm just like, freak. I'm like, what is happening? You know, and then I realized she turned on the TV, and I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, I was just shocked, and I was trying to capture the moment, but of course the movie kept playing.
Right.
But the other coincidence is that, right, you know, the last thing I did in Santa Fe before I left was I went with my ex, and we went out to the gorge, which is this area where there's a desert, and then it drops into the Rio Grande as a gorge. We went out there, we walked this long trail, we completed a labyrinth, and then we released her ashes into the gorge. So we did a labyrinth and released her ashes into the gorge. And that was the most meaningful thing I last did for Mama Cat before I moved here. So for that movie, in that particular scene of a talking black cat to show up right when I was just dreaming about my Mama Cat and being concerned about her, it's a sign. She's like, hey, just so that way you can't negate this. Here you go. And of course, I'm open to that.
And you know,
it's those experiences.
It's funny that even as a psychic, it's happened to me as well, that we still get surprised.
Yeah.
It's like we should know better.
Yeah. Yeah. I love being surprised in that way. It's harder, but I do appreciate a good, like, whoa, like, I mean, I know I predicted that, but Jesus, like,
I know.
Oh gosh, I didn't realize I could have that kind of experience. Yeah.
Oh, wow. I just love that. And having lost my own little dog this fall, and then finding my new one that I believe is the reincarnation of her. It all worked itself out. And I know it was done on purpose, but it still gives you the goosebumps, and you go, oh, wow, you know, and I love that, because I think we do need to still feel surprised sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, we have to be humbled by something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to feel, I never want to stop feeling that sense of wonderment and awe about the universe and our highest self and our connection to those in spirit. We're just people without bodies and animals without bodies.
That's right. You're absolutely right. So we got a plug here for your classes, and I guess you can find them on your website, right? And I'm very sure that he's a good teacher, Blaine. And I believe, actually, Blaine, that you also are a very good teacher, because when you read the tarot, you give such incredibly good readings with the images and stuff that you have. Yeah.
His skill to understand tarot is by far just something different. I don't have the attention span to sit there and read and memorize cards. I just don't have the attention span. But he can break it down.
The theater background, really.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, and I think I've told him this before, but also to reiterate, I've taught a lot of students over the years, and there have been people who just surprised me as to how accurate they are from the get-go.
Right.
And he's definitely one of those people.
He is. Yeah, he is. Yeah. I really enjoy working with him, and actually just really enjoy the two of you as well, because you're such a great couple. It's wonderful that you found each other, which was kismet anyway, because of the story of him.
It was meant to be.
It was meant to be. It really was. It's wonderful. One of the things also that I have seen on your, it was either Instagram or Blaine's, and I think it was Blaine, because he put the picture up of him coming over that pass and he said this is where he had come like a year or two before. And then when you came back from Santa Fe, he took the other picture of the same thing. Yeah. And it just gave me
same date.
On the same date.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
That I didn't plan for that. He mentioned that, I think, after I'd already planned for it. And we just happened to be on that spot on the day he made that move years ago.
8 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
Blaine, that's amazing. Yes, 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 yes. So someone's saying they've missed you in your Wednesday, Friday live YouTube readings. So I guess
Yeah.
you'll probably be back maybe after the holiday.
Yeah, I think this year has been a year of transformation and change, and also just some time out and some self-care,
Sure. We all
and
need it.
focus on that. Yeah, yeah, it's I mean, there was so much happening this year with so many things in the works. I mean, I what I was telling Blaine was like I was a little bit of upset with myself because I'm like, I stopped doing my lives and I stopped being consistent with that, and it's not that, and it's intentional. It's all been intentional,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
also stabilized my mother who went through a weird
Yes, you did.
pattern of I mean, her schizophrenia just kind of like hit us hard earlier this year, got her
Yeah.
stable, even though she's going through her cancer treatment now, she's stabilizing and it's looking good.
Okay.
So that's moving
Yeah.
in a good direction. So
Yeah.
dealing with supporting the back and forth of me and Blaine over the last year and a half, because I
True.
was going
Flying
back
back
and
and
forth,
forth. Yeah.
flying back
Yeah.
and forth once a month, every month,
Every month. Yeah.
coordinating that with stuff at the house, mama cat, having to process
Right.
those changes, having to deal with the preparation for the move at the same time,
Yeah.
putting a book out the same year. And so I thought, well, I've done a lot
Something's
this
got to
year. I
give
think I
there.
can, yeah, I
Yeah.
think I can take
Yep.
a little time to just
Oh,
recoup
yeah.
and kind of figure some things out to work better for
Yeah.
myself for the next
And
year.
you know that those of us who love you so much, we just understand.
I
We just
appreciate
do.
that.
And those people that are meant to stay will, of course. But it's good to know that you're loved, when somebody says they miss you or whatever. So I've got a question here for you.
Mm-hmm.
Lisa Keller wonders, when do you see the little sore under my right toe being totally healed and not having it anymore? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I would say I don't know if when I think of that, the first thought that pops into my mind or the idea is I keep thinking of your blood sugar and your kidney kind of struggling to deal with some things. I wonder if you've got some blood sugar irregularities or if there's some diabetes happening simultaneously, because I keep thinking that your body is having some challenges with being able to support some systems when it comes to healing, when it comes to recovery. And so the way that your cells, the way that your metabolic system is working feels like it's reducing its capacity to kind of work through some stuff. And I feel like when it comes to the sore and why it's kind of persisted, I feel like there are other things tied to that process that are affecting it. I do think that you will be able to see that heal. I think it's going to take, unfortunately, I feel like it might take another 3 or 4 months before you see a much better, where you're not as concerned about it. But in a way, it almost feels like you go through this weird cycle of it shows up and then it kind of seems like it's going through a healing pattern and then it kind of gets re-inflamed and then you finally, like, I think, heal. But I would say it might take another 3 or 4 months before you start to see yourself coming through this.
Wow.
Mhm.
As Ferny was talking, he could have been talking to me because I have neuropathy in my feet
Mm.
and I end up with that. And I'm also having a kidney issue where I have to have a stone removed next month. So I'm
Mhm.
going, oh my God. But I have to say that the toes have the meridians in them, just like the fingers do, just like
Mm.
those other things do. And I'm wondering if maybe and you can tell me if you think this may even work. I don't know. But if some like foot massage, working or going
Mm.
in and having a pedicure where they're putting your feet in hot wax, or they're doing something
Mhm.
like that, might be helpful in moving energy out of the foot. But again, I'm not
Mhm.
a doctor, and I certainly don't want to come across that I am in any way. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Did you have any, did you, Aley, have any issues or alignment issues with the joint hip part of your hip bone, the joint area, and then also in the lower back?
I have in the past. Yeah.
Okay. Has there
Mhm.
been a procedure that was done in that area or in that lower back area yet?
No,
Okay.
nope. And my
I
husband's a chiropractor, so he works on it all the time.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting.
Mhm.
I wonder if because when I think of, because when I look at the lower part of your spine and I keep seeing like, it's almost like there's 2 or 3 vertebrae, but they're kind of disjointed where there's a top
Oh,
one that feels like it might get inflamed from time to time. And then not the one below that, but the one right below that one, there's another area there. And so I keep thinking that those have a tendency of just shifting and moving in ways where it just might trigger some things. But at the same time, I also keep thinking of the joint in your hip bone where the leg joint kind of connects, and that it feels like there's some buildup around one of the bones that feels a bit like calcium just mineralizing there and then kind of triggering the inflammation in the nerve, which I wonder is what's might be triggering the neuropathy.
It could be because there's a muscle in your leg called the trochanter muscle, and it has rendered me in the past unable to walk. And it just comes on. It doesn't, give any kind. And then after a while, it seems to be okay again. But I just figure a lot of this shit is age.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I had something similar.
Yeah,
I had something similar with my back. I had pulled something in my upper spine, and the nerve in my arm just was, and I could feel it so sensitively here and in my shoulder bone. And I was like, what the hell is going on? And it turned out it was just what happened up here. And I had to go through this whole with my chiropractor in Santa Fe, he was wonderful.
Yeah. They usually can help move things along. Thank God I'm married to one. I think that was
yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah,
that's a good thing. Yeah, for sure.
That's for sure. Thank you for your response. Lisa, I believe your name. Yeah, that you have diabetes too.
She has
and
diabetes.
Podiatrist care, and it's a pinch flow of blood.
Yeah, that's what's contributing.
That's that meridian thing as well.
Yeah.
Just in my mind it is, but all right. Very good. Thanks, Ferny. I didn't mean to bust in on somebody.
Oh, no. I love it.
All right. So Gene, it must be Gene. Kiss. All right. May I ask what the future of my connection with I will be and any time frames?
Yeah, I kind of feel, when I think of this, immediately I start thinking of patterns that I've run into with clients when there's someone that they're romantically involved with. I'm not to say that this is a romantic connection, but that they're either romantically involved with or that they've had some sort of attachment to. And even though they may feel a certain way towards that person, sometimes it turns into one of these types of situations where people kind of come in and out of each other's lives over time, but they never really get on the same page, or things are never really lined up to where they can both kind of pursue or put more towards something. And so when I think of the future connection with I for them, I keep seeing that this kind of like this missed opportunity, and people kind of interacting back and forth with each other, but not necessarily getting to the point where it can evolve past that level. And it just feels like a missed opportunity. Yeah. So she's like, we're not romantic at this time. Okay. Yeah. So I'm thinking that even though you're not romantic at this time, it wouldn't surprise me if there are going to be instances where they may pop back into the picture, but I wouldn't necessarily say that it's going to progress towards what kind of connection you're wanting it to ideally be. And so it may be one of those things where, and sometimes that happens with people if they're a part of our karmic journey and what we're supposed to learn, what we're supposed to figure out, what we're supposed to understand. And I feel, we almost talked daily. Yeah. I feel like this is a person that's in your life for the process of development for your soul, yourself, and becoming of another, evolved version of yourself as a human being, but not necessarily this connection being the thing that you're going to gain from that interaction. It may just be a part of the process of you going through this growth and development over your life. Yeah.
Sometimes it's interesting how people, even in high school or earlier in their years, they have a connection. They may even have a romantic connection, and then it breaks off. And then at some point, like when they're 60, they run into each other. They're either divorced or lost a spouse, and they get together, and there they are. It's like, we'll meet in another 40 years, which is really hard to conceptualize because it seems like a lifetime between that. Yeah. Wow. All right. So we have LCNJNS. Can you tell me anything about an upcoming job or career path?
I am a couple of things. I keep seeing a 2.5 year cycle and period where you're going to be kind of either developing new skills that are going to shift your trajectory with career or work. It could also be like if you're going to go into some sort of a training program or a certification program of 2.5 years where you have to do something to complete that, and then you can get into something. I'm reminded of nurses. So I'm going to say that there might be more of a correlation to the health industry or health and wellness that you might go into. It may not necessarily be nurse, but I want to say this has something to do with the medical industry, and a 2.5 year cycle you're going to be going through that are going to, where you're going to be gaining more skills and abilities, and then you'll kind of shift trajectories. Before that happens though, there may be a job change. Let's just call it like a regular job change that might come up by summer or fall of next year. And that just feels like a job change. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's what you're going to be doing after the 2.5 year cycle. It feels like you'll be doing that 2.5 year cycle or that process of gaining those skills while this job change has happened. And then at the end of that, it feels like there's this health and wellness alignment that occurs.
You know, I'm reminded that he is trying to completely delegitimize nursing. He's just the president I'm talking about. The Department of Education, which I hope will never happen. But the things like nurses and PAs, physicians assistants, all these things, they're not professional anymore. And so I'm wondering if this is going to create, people that won't even be looking into those professions because what's the point? You know?
Yeah. Well, the government doesn't get to decide what's valid and what isn't.
Thank you.
But people believe the government controls everything, and so some companies may operate from the premise of reacting to that and validating that. But the health and the health industry, doctors, hospitals, they know better. They're like, well, no, we kind of need certified nurses. Like people like gone and gotten there. Like we kind of need that, and we can't just hire anybody for that. So
that's right. That's right. This isn't an episode of Dumb and Dumber.
Right.
All right. In what order will career, right, long-term relationships, and having kids come together? Oh my goodness, that's a big ask, honey.
In what order will career, right, long-term, right, long? Oh, God. So I think she wants to know: is her career going to basically get started first, or is she gonna, or a relationship gonna have first? Yeah. I'm actually thinking that career, as far as a career is concerned, I think that it's going to take you some time to kind of find the thing that you really are going to feel satisfied or happiest with. I actually think what may happen is that you end up deciding on a career path, and then you at some point start to realize that's not going to make you happy, or that's not really what you want to do. I do see you getting into a relationship and starting a family and taking time away from career to focus on family in a way. That doesn't mean you're going to get married. It just means I see it like a long-term relationship that produces children and a family. And then you end up deciding from that experience to go back into working mode. But it does feel like you make a career change at that point. So your initial career path isn't the one I think you're going to stick to.
Yeah. And I went through that myself. I started out in a bank. I became a mortgage officer. And then I did something else and something else and something else. I must have had 100 different jobs, but those were jobs. They weren't careers. So yeah. Sometimes that's just the way things work, Yeah. I'd really love you to do a reading on Sue. She said she is going through, she's been being evicted. She's lost her job again. And she's got the abilities. She's down in beautiful Australia, but she's feeling as though someone is psychically reading her thoughts. And I just, I'd love you to take a look into her energy. Yeah.
So say that again. So she's having. Sometimes I'm on a bus or a big office. I look up and think someone's here is psychic reading my thoughts. This is my imagination. So there's a couple of things you should understand about the process of it. One is, by default, we are all exchanging energy as humans. So whether you are with someone in person and you're sitting next to them in a bus, or you're watching someone on television and you're watching them say something or whatever, they're immediately, the moment you just see another human or are aware of them into some capacity, there's an exchange of energy that begins to happen. And this is what occurs when I'm doing mediumship. Sometimes I'm connected to one spirit. We're talking about that one spirit. And then the moment that the client mentions like a grandmother who's also deceased, it opens up that line of communication and immediately makes me start to pick up on them as well. Because I'm like, well, oh, wait, I'm still trying to focus on the one person that we have on the line. But then my brain starts going with them as well.
Sure.
And so there's an exchange that immediately happens with human beings. The thing about it is some of us are more aware of that than others. Some of us are more sensitive to that exchange than others. That doesn't mean that someone is like, hey, I'm going to follow you and I'm looking to read your thoughts and I'm going to read your mind. Quite the contrary. If anything, people who tend to exchange energy in this way or who are looking for connection with others will pick up on each other's energy more intensely. So she might be just very aware of someone sensing something or picking up on something, but that person may not even realize that they're doing that or that they're picking up on her energy. And that's something that comes along with this is sometimes we are in our right mind and sometimes we are in someone else's right mind. And there are times when I will wake up and I start to have symptoms show up in my body, or I feel a certain way, or I'm emotionally starting to feel a way that is not normal for me. And there are not issues and reasons in my life that would be triggering me to feel this way. And so I'm like, why am I feeling that way? And then the first client that I get on the call with, turns out they're going through this and this is what I'm picking up. And I'm like, oh, I've just by even looking at my calendar that morning and who I'm going to be reading for automatically opens up a line of communication and energy exchange. And so I think she's having the same experience.
Wow. And you know what, Sue, that may be creating issues at the job and also issues around your housing, because I think that's interesting. Somebody said, put a pink bubble of protection around yourself if you can remember to do something like that, because that's an important thing to do in this case. But
yeah, I do think that Sue sometimes suffers from some challenges with her personality and her mental health that she needs to focus on, because sometimes when you are missing a leg and you don't have a choice but to use, an artificial leg, spending your life complaining about not having a leg, even though it's what you have to do. You have to use an artificial leg. It's just the reality of the situation. And there are those of us in life who are just really sensitive emotionally or energetically. And we have to rely on sometimes medication to help us, even if it's not, I appreciate the clarity that Adderall can give me and the ability to concentrate and focus to get my work done. I don't appreciate the side effects. It creates like bad breath. Actually, is one of the side effects that it comes with. Really? And it's just like, and I'm on a 24-hour slow release one because the other one was making me way more anxious. But it creates, and I'm just like, and so I would rather not have to take it, but I have a life and I have responsibilities and I have to do what I have to do. Yeah.
And we know that actually anything can affect us. Remember reading once that, it's not so good to drink a lot of alcohol if you're a psychic, or smoke cigarettes a lot, because that's kind of like, it's harder for you to get the messages through. Or if we have a situation where we just don't have, for me, it was meat. I gave up beef because beef made me more grounded.
I heard. Well, see, that's interesting because I even talk about this in the book about the use of substances and how sometimes substances can actually help you to be more psychic and intuitive, but sometimes it can also hinder it. And it just, there's a balance between what's going to work and what isn't. I went through that as well. In the beginning stage of my journey, I believed the only way I was going to turn on or switch on that ability to full capacity was to become a vegan, and then a raw vegan. So I was a raw vegan for a hot minute, and then a vegan for a while, vegetarian for several years. So, and I actually, though it may have made my body feel better, I wouldn't say that it made my ability stronger.
Okay. That's good to know, because everybody's different, of course. But for me, I haven't had it since 1990. And I eat chicken and turkey and stuff, but just the cows. There was something about the beautiful.
I get it. It's the energy. Yeah, I get it.
It's the energy of them. I just find them to be so wonderful. All right. So we have time for just one more. And Lama Serenity, we welcome you to the community. Beautiful face that you have there, girl. She lives far away from her dad. She'd love to know how serious his health is. Maybe he's not telling her. His
Yeah.
name is Gaston, age 74. We've been apart for many years. I travel there to help him.
Yeah, so I can't tell you what you should do. However, what I believe, I do believe that his health, I think that there's more than one issue. I think there's one issue that he's just been putting off for a while and hasn't really done anything with. And then I think there's another issue that's become the primary focus for him. I do think that he may get to a critical level with his health, and it may be difficult for him to be able to function normally or to the same level, especially within the next 2 to 3 months. Because I think once we get into January, it just feels like capacity wise, I'm just not seeing as much capacity for him to just be able to carry on in a normal day. And so I feel like there's diminished capacity there. So what I would say is if it's, yeah, I would say, yeah. I mean, I think your intuition's already tipping you off that he's not sharing things, but I think that there's more going on. And I would say it may be a point to visit him, even if not, at least not by the holidays, at least in January, because I think it would be helpful for both of you.
That's a really good, I mean, I agree. He can't, and I can't tell you what to do, but I will tell you that I've actually read, and some of us have worked through this, but that after 65 years old, things start deteriorating. And I hate this. Of course, a lot of it's here. Okay. So it's all up to us, but and especially men, they don't tend to take care of themselves as well as women do. And especially if he doesn't have a woman around. So yeah, I agree with Ferny. We can't tell you what to do, but I think that, yes, you are tapping in. And, if you can go, at least go see him, as he says, maybe you can, you're going to see the truth. He may not tell you the truth.
Yeah. And one thing that I'll mention, a primary thing that I keep seeing is fluid in this chest and around the heart. And so those are areas that I'm kind of fixating on.
Okay. Which are, entertainment purposes only, but yes, absolutely. Anyway, wow. Well, this has been a fabulous hour with you, Ferny. And again, Ferny's book is Psychic by Fernando Marron. I love to say your last name because Marron, he also has his website up here by his name. He does have a YouTube channel, as he indicated. He hasn't been as active as normal. He also works on Instagram a lot. He has shows with his partner Blaine, and they have a fabulous show together. I've seen that. And I just want to encourage you. He's just fabulous. I remember the first time I had him on, I said to myself, oh my God, this man is just somebody special. And so I thank you so, so much, Fernando, for coming in.
I appreciate that. Thank you. That means a lot to me.
You mean a lot to me, and Blaine does too. So thank you so very much, everybody. We hope to see you again soon. In the meantime, happy Thanksgiving. Yes. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.